Here are 5 of the strongest armors you can get relatively early in Ghost of Yotei, and I'm not gonna lie, you're not going to want to miss them. These are going to give you tons of amazing stagger, a very good healing sustain, and some of them come with unique functionalities that used to be some of the actual best in Ghost of Tsushima. Now, we covered one of the early armors in the previous video, which is Taro's armor set, and this is actually something that he gives you for free, but his spawning conditions are actually not quite as fixed as I thought they would be. So mine spawned right here on the side of the map on the way towards the Jade Grove. However, he can literally spawn in any enemy camp all across the map, and even has a chance to spawn in your own camp when you set it up. So my best recommendation, if you're not hitting all of these spots, is to just pop off a camp and hope that is going to spawn for you. He should spawn within the first couple of hours at the very least. At least that was the case for me. But this is actually a pretty strong armor that you can go ahead and just use since it's for absolutely free. It is going to buff your spirit gains, especially when you already have a cooking bonus. So I recommend having those because they are very strong and it's very easy to craft them. You get a pretty good HP increase, which you need at this stage, and you get that fire and cold resistance, which you're going to also use in some of the stages later down the line. So overall, pretty decent for an early on armor set. But not too long after this, we can literally get one of the strongest armor sets in the game, which is the Bounty Master. And if you played Iki Island expansion in the previous game, all of these perks should be familiar because they are a one-to-one recreation of the Sarugami armor, and that used to be the strongest back in the previous game. So to acquire that armor, you have to get a special bounty from the bounty broker that he himself actually hints on your first conversation with him on your very first visit to the Shadow Inn. And guess what? You don't have to do much for it. In my case, I only had to complete like 3 or 4 bounties that I was able to get from the board next to him anyway. So this included Crow Genzo, Smiling Yoshitomo, then I came back for the second batch, which included, I guess, like the Bone Crusher and another one that I finally completed. And once I came back to the bounty broker and gave them in, he mentioned that he has a special extra bounty to give to me. So this is something you cannot get from the bounty board. He has to actually physically give it to you, which is going to open up a new one for Soma the Condemned, which you're going to find right here on this side of the map. And once you go to this location, you're going to find a locked gate, and let me just tell you, if you play your shamisen, you're going to be given entrance to it. Simply follow it towards the encounter, and at the end of it, you're going to get this really awesome looking armor set right away. Now, what makes this armor so strong is that the perfect parry and perfect dodge windows have increased, even though it comes at the cost of regular parries being disabled. Though that doesn't really matter because it's so easy to pull off perfect parries and dodges with this that you're literally not going to miss any of that. And it's also going to have a very strong follow-up depending if you do a perfect parry or a perfect dodge. In this case, at max level, it's going to provide up to 3 additional counterattack follow-ups that, as you can see, oftentimes bypass defenses, can even jump to other targets, and you gain a massive spirit amount back when you do all of this. So all in all, this lets you spam your abilities a lot more than ever, like this dual katana mythical skill we covered in the previous video. So if you want to know how to get it early, totally check that one out. Now, moving on to the third one, the next one is going to be the Spider Lily armor set, which you can actually get from an encounter here at the Mysterious Gate, not too far off actually from your starting zone. So you just have to make your way over there, and the mythical tale for the Spider Lily General will begin the moment you approach the gate. And in this case, you are going to have to find 4 keys to open up the entrance and eventually reach the final encounter. So I'm going to go ahead and show it to you, but keep in mind that this is going to involve some slight spoilers. So if you don't want to see this, maybe skip to the section ahead of this. But if you want to go ahead and grab it, you're going to pretty much have to find 2 keys on both the left and the right side of the entrance. So we're going to go ahead and start with the left side of the entrance. In this case, you're going to find the first key right behind this massive pagoda here in one of these chests. Go ahead and grab it and a scene will play out. Once the cutscene is over, you can now follow the road ahead of you, following the red lilies all the way into a graveyard. Basically, you're going to need to reach the upper level of it, point at which you're going to have a second encounter, and once that encounter is over with, you're going to literally spawn right next to the grave that actually has the key for you. Grab it, and this is going to be pretty much done over here. From this point on, you're going to want to go ahead and either fast travel or manually get back to the entrance with the chains once again, as now we're going to head towards the right side. Our first destination here will be a nearby cave, so simply follow my steps all the way until you see the entrance. From here, it's going to be pretty linear. You're going to eventually have to climb an upper section and also make your way down all the way into this cave filled with paintings. You will obviously find the third key here by some of these other items in the area. And for the fourth and final key, just make your way outside of this cave, and as you make your way towards the previous entrance, you're going to now backtrack a little bit and instead follow to the adjacent path here into the bamboo forest. And here you're going to just have to navigate a puzzle, but pretty much just follow the red lilies on the ground. After like 3 or so puzzles, you're going to pretty much reach your destination. Plus, you also get a bamboo strike here for some extra spirit to complete on the way. Once you're done and you got the key, you're pretty much ready to go back at the gate to teleport here, and now you're ready to open it up. There's going to be a slight more sequence here with a bit of investigation, but at the end of this, just enter the courtyard and now you're going to have your final encounter. I don't want to spoil it, so I'm just going to show you getting the armor over here. You're going to pretty much guarantee get it no matter what, and that's going to be the Spider Lily armor set. Now, what makes this armor set special is that it literally has an AoE stagger, so when you stagger an enemy, there is actually a chance to also cause this sort of like pushback that also staggers partially some of the nearby enemies. The AoE range on that is actually really high, so if you want to affect multiple targets at the same time, this can help quite a bit. It's also going to give you more chances for enemies to drop throwable weapons, and this is already a very strong ability. You can pretty much one-shot the overwhelming majority of the enemies with their own weapons, which I find really awesome. Plus, you can even get some extra stagger damage inflicted by your melee weapons anyway with this build, which further helps solidify it as a pretty strong option, I would say, but not like the strongest at this stage. Even later in the game, there are much better ones, but still a very nice sort of gimmicky way of playing with the stagger mechanic. Now, from this point on, all of the remaining armors on today's list require a little bit of story progression. However, depending on your choice of which of the Yotei 6 to pursue first, you may get some of these armors sooner while others a little bit later. Again, it's going to be dependent on how you tackle the story structure. But I'm still going to start with possibly like the first one you get access to, which is going to be the Ainu armor, basically one that's useful for open world exploration. For this, you're going to need to take up the northern ferry on this side of the map, talk to the Ainu people here, and they will bring you very close to the Nyoro Falls. In this case, once you complete the scene over there, you should already have access to the nearby village. So if you go and speak to the same woman again, you're now going to get access to the heart of an Ainu, which should already be available on the map as it is. This is actually a very linear and pretty quick quest, at the end of which you're going to get the robes of the Sitturaynu, and what you're going to get from it is basically these functionalities. So fireflies and controller vibration will guide you to altars of reflection when you are within 55 meters distance. Also, golden birds can now lead to shamisen songs and sumie painting locations, and you also get a chance to automatically pick up flowers when going through flower trails or when stealthing through tall grass. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be quite as strong as the exploration armor we used to have back in Tsushima that was giving us some major bonuses whenever we collected stuff off the ground, like resources and whatnot. It would be like anywhere between 50% to 100%. Unfortunately, that's no longer the case here. But if you follow that Kitsune storyline, this means you will also gain access very easily to, in this case, the Crimson Kimono armor set, which is basically amazing at stealthing around. So in this case, once you follow a little bit of that storyline up until you get to the Teishio Ridge here, you should be all set to actually start it. But you're going to need to find the storyteller Ugetsu. So if no other NPC gave you that information just yet, you can just go straight to his campsite, which is going to be here at the Sakura Woods, very close to the only orange tree in that whole area. So speak to him, that's going to start the mythical tale, and in this you're going to have to find and interact with some of these frozen statues, which are basically going to spawn some of these red bugs that you will have to follow to a nearby clue that will give you the information for the next location of the next sets of statues you need to find. So just rinse and repeat. It's actually going to be really easy to follow, and at the end of it you're going to have a box with the crimson kimono sitting right inside. And like I said, this is actually a really awesome armor set, so it is going to be very useful for assassination playstyles. So chain assassinations can be performed with kunai and even get upgraded with a max of 2 extra kunais like in the previous ghost armor upgrades back in Tsushima. Also, enemy detection is reduced by a massive amount at max level, but it also buffs your KhrazeGaming assassination, which can reach targets from even further away. So highly useful, especially since by this stage you should also get the KhrazeGaming, so it couples perfectly just as you're following the Kitsune questline. I really enjoy this playstyle. It's still not quite like the ghost armor and some of the other options back in Tsushima, but I really like that KhrazeGaming playstyle with assassinations. Which now brings us to our final armor on the list, and that's going to be the Undying Samurai armor, one that actually has a really interesting gimmick if you know how to play properly. But this is what you're going to get if you follow a bit of that Oni quest line, assuming that you started with that Yotei 6 enemy instead. In this case, you're going to now get access to a new location in the Ishikari Plain. Now, even if you didn't get any tales about it, you can still just head over to the NPC quest giver, which you're going to find right here on this side of the map. And guess what? Yes, it's going to be Ugetsu once again. So go at his camp, speak to him. This is going to start the mythical tale in which you're going to have to find 4 wind chimes which are going to summon that fight for you. So let me show you each of their locations. The first one is going to be right here, a little bit up close to the same camp you just been into. So if the cutscene played out for you, at the end of it you should see the tree with a bear right in front of you. So go ahead, defeat the bear and grab the wind chime, and this is going to be 1 out of 1. From this point on, we can actually use the same wind chime to also indicate the location of the remaining 3. In this case, you're going to want to use it like any regular gust of wind by flicking upwards, and then pay attention to both the sound, vibration, but especially the animation that it plays out as it blows in the wind. So when it starts actually spinning and blowing in the wind, this is going to indicate that you're on the right path towards the next chime. However, if you for some reason still have difficulties with that, here are the locations. So the second one is directly south from the storyteller's camp, in this case just above the Nagakoya spring. You can go ahead, grab it, it's going to be very close to this tree with an enemy next to it. Third one will be at the Stone Jaw Coast. In this case, you're going to need to pretty much make your way all the way at the top of a cliff where you will see a dead man hanging. In this case, use your grappling hook, make it drop, go down, and you can retrieve it from the body. Which now finally brings us to the fourth and final one, and also the easiest. You're going to find it here at the Rumoi River, pretty much very close to the river bank actually. So once again, make your way, defeat the enemy that now holds it, and then you can retrieve it from its body. And from this point on, all you have to do is to find the final location, once again using the same chime technique, but basically this is going to bring you here to this peninsula a little bit further west. From here, drop down, go all the way inside of this cave and place all of the chimes next to each of the pillars, which will summon the boss fight, at the end of which, if you defeat it, you will get the armor of the Undying. So the way this armor works is that it plays off that weapon alignment mechanic, the same one you can also check for each individual weapon you just unlocked. But basically it boils down to constantly wanting to counter your enemy with the appropriate weapon, which in turn will give you all of these bonuses, including massive heals when you stagger enemies, the fact that your perfect parry and perfect dodge windows get extended, and the fact that focus attacks have a moderate chance to also increase staggered damage. So all in all, if you properly necessarily counter enemies all the time, which are naturally aligned. You're going to get those bonuses, increased staggers, and all of the heals. So it kind of also functions a little bit like that Bounty Master armor, because we have the extended perfect parry window without having to actually sacrifice any of our regular parries, which is why this may be a little bit better situationally depending on your playstyle, or at the very least the type of encounters you're going against. But this pretty much concludes today's video. Let me know down below in the comments which one of these armors is your favorite and are you still using it. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, a sub to the channel would be awesome. Also, don't forget to leave a like, and I'll see you guys in the next video.